Clubhouse.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Beacon 23 recap. Before we begin, we want to give a shout out to our sponsors over at Boat Rocker. They're the awesome folks behind Beacon 23 as well as the much anticipated new series Orphan Black Echoes.
Oh man, Orphan Black was the bomb. So I really can't wait to watch Orphan Black Echoes actually.
And in case you're totally interested in tuning into Orphan Black Echoes, I'm going to give you a quick premise of what to expect. First of all, set in the year 2052, a whole 37 years after the original series wrapped up, Echoes takes us into the lives of the now adult Kira and her wife. The two leading ladies include Kristen Ritter, who is Marvel's Jessica Jones, and Keely Hawes from Bodyguard. Together, they set off on a mission to help a girl with amnesia piece her life back together. And I hear it's a wild ride, team.
Cool. When and where can we watch it?
I'm glad you asked. Orphan Black Echoes premieres Sunday, June 23rd on AMC, AMC Plus, and BBC America.
I can't wait to see the next chapter of the Orphan Black universe.
Today's Beacon 23 interview with Ellen Wong is brought to you by Boat Rocker, producers of Beacon 23 and the upcoming series Orphan Black Echoes. Thanks for joining us today on the podcast, Ellen.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
We've been looking forward to this since it came up that we had got the opportunity to interview the contributors to Beacon 23. We were granted a Christmas list, I guess, and so we put you on the top of it.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm really excited to talk about Iris because she's really close to my heart, and any chance that I get to talk about her journey and what she meant to me, I feel like I'm happy to do it. And also the team on the show was just amazing. And so when James asked me to join you guys, it was a yes, hands down.
Well, let's get to know Ellen just a little bit. What is your favorite movie? Of all movies, what is your favorite movie?
Oh, wow. I mean, that is a very hard question because it depends on my mood.
I know.
It depends on the day. So we can spend the entire podcast talking about feelings and what movie would go with that. But the first one that popped into my head, and because we're talking about Iris and my role as Iris, actually was Titanic, because Titanic was the movie that made me want to be an actor.
Wow.
Oh.
So that is my answer to that specific question in this very moment. It might be different in 5 minutes.
I'm not afraid to love Titanic.
You shouldn't. It was an epic movie.
No, when it goes on re-releases, I mean, the 3D release, all of it. I've gone back to the theater.
The soundtrack. Come on.
Yeah, well, why don't you tell us about your character? Let's talk about Iris. You know, you brought her to life. Who is Iris to you? We've put together our own ideas with the episodes we've seen so far. So educate us. Tell us how it is.
Well, Iris would like to go by B67.
Ooh, I knew that. You know what? My note said B67 first. And I should have respected that. I know better.
But her heart does get the best of her, and then she does reveal herself to be Iris. And, you know, she's a beacon keeper. She's got a strong moral compass. She's ambitious. She's a lover of rules. But as we see throughout the season, we really get to watch her be more in touch with her feelings and what they really mean to her and how they really affect her. And so she can't really just repress them and just do the job anymore. She's really forced to come to terms with all of the things that she's feeling, especially when she goes on to be 23 and she has to face potentially B174, all of those things. So she's breaking the rules now. She goes from a lover of rules to the breaker of rules. So it's been an interesting journey kind of coloring that space for her. And that's who she is.
Well, how closely were you involved with developing the character? Did you have any input on that, or was it all written for you to work off of when you got there?
I would say a lot of it was already written when I signed on to join the show. We had I think I had maybe 2 weeks before shooting where I got the script, and I was like, oh, because I had a meeting with Joy Blake and Glenn Mazzara, who are the showrunners for second season, and they were telling me all about Iris, and they started asking me things like, oh, what instrument do you play? All like we were just kind of having, it felt like a casual chat about a character who would just be recurring, an important character, but I didn't really understand the weight of her and what she was really going to mean to the series until, by the end of the call, they said, okay, well, we're going to send you the script, and then we're excited to hear what you think about it. And they send me the script, and I get it, and the script is called Iris, and I'm like, oh, wait, hold on. Okay. And I'm reading, I'm like, oh my God, it's just me all alone with an AI. And then I only talked to a real person at the end of the episode. And so that's, so I think, in a way like Iris, she's all in. And then I really felt the weight of the responsibility to tell a genuine, grounded human story. And because she's not just this fun character who I thought she would just kind of show up and be part of an ensemble, it's not really an ensemble type of show. She really steers things in a different direction for the main character with Halen. So it really felt like as soon as I got the script, I dove right in and was actually surprised that she was so close to my heart, because I could understand this character in a way that I never thought that I was going to understand her.
Real life Ellen likes the rules.
Yeah, well, I like rules, but I would say not like Iris, but I can totally understand the need to have rules in order to have control of your space and to know, like, it makes life make sense when there are rules, right? But then there is always a point in life where you realize life actually doesn't make sense. And so, maybe all the rules are just there to control us and to trick us into just being this, one thing. And I think that's an existential sort of crisis. But, I think in a way, Iris is going through that. And, at the time, I too was just feeling like, we just had the pandemic. I also just had a baby. And so I just felt like my world was sort of turned upside down. And in a way, playing Iris was what I needed at the same time as I feel like she needed me and I needed her,
That totally makes a lot of sense. I'm also somebody who is like super rule oriented, and I've had to learn how to kind of deconstruct or unlearn and unmask to be able to better cope with the abrupt changes.
Right.
So I felt that. I definitely felt that from Iris. You portrayed that perfectly.
Well, thank you.
I love her faces, like her angry faces when she's looking at these like intruders who are just, the scrappers who are just tearing up the ship. And she just gives them such dirty looks because she has so much loyalty to her mission of the beacon, and they're just desecrating it.
Yeah, she has this calling to be a beacon keeper, and she really, really holds that near and dear to her heart. And I feel like it was also a job that was, or not just a job, but a calling that's been passed down through generations in her family too. So there's a feeling of wanting to pass along that tradition and to do a really great job at it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also the beacons are that's what's keeping the universe alive and well. We need beacon keepers to be there for everything else to sort of move along and to function in order. And so there's a lot of respect that has to go into that. And the beacon is not just a place where you're going to work. It's also your home. I mean, you live there and you work there. It's like if somebody were to come into your house and destroy it, you'd be pissed. You'd be really pissed.
I feel like I'm talking to Iris, not Ellen. So this is so great.
Like, how dare
I believe you.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you're really well informed about your show. That's really great. Sometimes when you talk to people, they're less informed, and so that's really really fun.
He's like, I've just said the lines, but I don't know what happened.
Well,
is that what you mean?
Sometimes you get that sense, yeah. So
Oh no.
let's nerd out on
Well, it's funny that you bring that up because I definitely, when I first got the script, was like, some of the lines I was like, what am I even saying? What? So I had a lot of questions. I had to figure out all the things like QTA, ISA, FTL. I was just like, what's A5? Like, all of these things. And I think because in my first, the funny one was in the first episode, I think I thought A5 was the name of an AI or something that was supposed to be on Beacon 23. And I can't remember if this part made it into the episode. So I started off the scene walking around calling for A5, like somebody was supposed to respond to me, be like, yep, I'm here. What can I do for you? And then after that first take, the director, Angel, was like, A5, you're just kind of like asking it's like a light switch. You're looking for the light switch, like A5, A5, where's that light? And I was like, oh. So just like, so, it was like there are multiple things like that where I had just jumped into a show that already had a whole season to itself and these really deep-rooted established characters and world, and here I was just going, oh, okay, I still have a lot to learn. So
well, your lines about the relationship between QTA and ISA are the first time that is actually straightened out. That doesn't.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that doesn't come up. It's implied, but you say exactly what the relationship is.
Well, there you go. Iris knows all. She really does.
She does.
But does she know that Jiang does not need to be a nag?
I think she knows that deep down, but she can never say that to her out loud.
We were kind of wondering about Jiang because there's also the representation of Iris's grandmother on screen. And we're kind of wondering if Jiang is either a parent or maybe a grandmother type influence on her. And we don't know exactly what language she's speaking. We know it's probably Mandarin, but we don't know exactly.
I love it. I love this part. Okay, so I speak Teochew, which is a dialect of Chinese that really is not taught anymore or like used because it's not like Mandarin or Cantonese where it's much more popular and used globally.
Aha.
And so when Glenn asked me what other languages I spoke, I was like, well, I can speak some French and I speak Teochew and I can speak Cantonese, a little bit Mandarin, but he's like, what's Teochew? And I was like, oh, and I explained to him, growing up, that was my first language and my parents, we spoke that at home. But it's not a dialect that is common or one that people really know about. And so he's like, what? Oh, let's use that one. And I was like, really? So I feel like this is probably the one role where I'm the most proud of in terms of having my parents watch because they're just going to lose their minds when they see full-on conversations in this language because you just don't see that anymore. It's not a language
is so special.
Like when I went back, because my parents were born in Cambodia, but the language goes back to China. But my parents were born in Cambodia, and when I had gone back, there was a whole generation of older people who speak this language, but they just think that it's not something that they need to share with the younger generation anymore because it's not used globally. So when I went back to Cambodia and I was at the market and, buying things and trying to bring down the prices and things like that, I used Teochew, and a lot of the shop owners were like, whoa, how do you know how to speak this? They were like, we don't even speak to our own children in this language anymore. How do you know this? I told that to Glenn and he thought that was really, really interesting and that feels like a very Iris thing to have, a very Iris trait to have, that she loves tradition and respects that. And she, of course, would be the one kid that would be like, no, I need to know this language and I need to preserve it and I need to keep it going. And so that was a big reason why we decided to use that instead of any other language that might be more common that more people would understand right off the bat.
That is amazing. Paul, thank you for asking the question. Ellen, thank you so much for sharing that context because I think that these are trailblazing kind of moments in the industry.
They are.
Yeah. And so I think that that's amazing, especially also knowing the context of this story is like in this far distant future. And we spend a lot of time conversing about what are the things from Earth that carry on, right? We're just
Yeah.
finding curiosity about that. And the fact that this is like right now, today, a dialect that is kind of obscure and that this has made it through because of people like Iris. It's just so amazing. So cool.
Yeah,
I'm
like
so happy.
yeah, I'm so happy that we were able to talk about this because for me, I didn't think that it would be a big deal to anybody or anybody would really notice it except for people who speak Teochew. That would be a big deal. But so the fact that you asked about it, I'm like really excited that we got to talk about it because yeah, it is such an Iris thing that she would want to hold on to this piece of history and to never let it die. She wants to carry it forward because she respects it and loves it.
I mean, it makes sense, right? It's the same thing that she's so determined to keep practicing the sourdough. And she's
Exactly.
doing that all the
Like
time.
that sourdough has been passed down through generations. How many? I'm not sure. And then it's interesting the question you asked, Paul, about the grandmother and Jiang. And, I don't think that there's really a concrete backstory to that Glenn and I talked about. And we were like, yes, this is definitely it. It's more in my world and what I sort of thought going into this. And I don't even think I really talked to Glenn about it that much, but I feel like Jang is an AI that was passed down through generations of beacon keepers in her family. And what Angel, the director, and I had talked about was that the photo of the grandmother is just that maybe the grandmother is who raised me.
Mm.
And so I'm just paying respect to my ancestors at the beginning of the episode where I'm praying to my ancestors. But that Jiang is not my grandmother, but she's just been there protecting the family for generations. And that's why she also has a little bit more of a naggy tone to her because she's old fashioned, she's not with it in the future. And yeah.
Well, that's a very interesting perspective. I hadn't considered the idea that this would be like a generational kind of thing for Iris's family.
Mm-hmm.
But like you mentioned, she's very grounded in things related to the past as we see it, like speaking a language that would, from today, like you've described, it sounds like would have a very tough time making it 1,000 years into the future without a real effort to do so. And then other characters that we've met have been very futury. Halen is a augmented super soldier. In first season, Aster was whatever she was, but very set in that time and place. Mm-hmm. Whereas Iris still pays homage to her inherited culture.
She's a bit of an old soul.
It seems that way, yeah. I don't really have a solid question there. I'm just saying I respect the effort. And was that all in the writing, or did you have a chance to influence how that came to light?
I feel like there's always a bit of that in the writing, especially just with being able to, speak Teochew and making that choice with Glenn and deciding that let's use that language. And then just with the grandmother and with Jiang, it was just one of those things where when I really thought about it, I feel like whether or not it was meant to be, I had to know for myself who they were. Like, who is Jiang really, and why am I praying to my grandmother? And so, as an actor, I'm always kind of drawing the lines and I have to connect the dots and make that all make sense. So I feel like the dots were in the writing, and I had to connect them all together. And so it was sort of a team effort in terms of creating a character who is as grounded, I think, as Iris is, and who really has a love for history and the past, and from what makes us who we are today.
Last week we had the opportunity to meet with William Marriott, the composer of the show, and we asked him if he wrote Iris's clarinet parts. And he says that he believes you did. So can you clear that up for us? Who played this clarinet? Do you play the clarinet?
Okay, so this is another funny thing where in my meeting with Glenn and Joy, Glenn goes, "Do you play any instruments?" And I go, "I played the clarinet 20 years ago, I think." In middle school, I played the clarinet. He's like, were you good? I was like, I mean, I did. We performed,
First chair.
we,
First chair,
yeah,
Ellen.
we competed. Oh, really? Yeah. So I played second clarinet, and he's like, how long did you play it for? I was like, well, I went to a music school in middle school. So in grade 7 and 8, I played it a lot, very well. And then throughout high school, it kind of was like, I played it, but it wasn't I didn't hold on to it. But he's like, do you think if we got you to play the clarinet again, you'd be able to do it? I was like, sure. But just remember, again, like I'm talking grade 7, grade 8, like this is pre-high school. So, and in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, they're not going to send me anything complicated. Like I'm an actor. Like they just want it to look like I'm fingering the notes properly. And like, look like I know what I'm doing, but I don't. I don't have to be such a pro at it. And I thought it was just going to be something simple. And I remember just before shooting this first episode where Iris is introduced, they sent over this sound recording of, a clarinet track. And I was like, oh shit, they want me to play that? I was like, I can't do that. Like it was like la 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 la, like all over the place. It was like I was like, this is pro level. Like I told Glenn 20 years, grade 7, grade 8, pre-high school. I was like so confused and also so stressed because I just didn't know if they were just gonna be like, no, you have to do this, and you said you would do it, and that you could do it, and so this is what you have to do. But it's funny because as I listened to it more and more, I thought, oh, and this is such a if you can play a woodwind, you'll really understand this. I was like, oh, I can actually play this. I just need to play it an octave lower. I just can't play all those crazy high notes. And so I kind of did a version of it where I played I lowered all the notes and I sent it back. And that's when they were like, oh, yeah, that works. That's perfect. And I also worked with a clarinetist, a professional clarinetist, who helped me sort of navigate what all the notes were. And we had asked for the actual music sheet, so we weren't just kind of guessing the notes at that point. And so that really helped us to take what was created for us and then to play in the octave or keys that I was most comfortable with and to sort of adjust it a little bit. So it was really fun because I realized I could actually play some of the songs that were sent to me. And it was really fun to be able to go back in time and to play the clarinet again. I really loved it.
I think that the lower octave, like the what we've seen so far of it, it sounds really great. It's a really good tone for this kind of like slower, quiet kind of life. So I think that was like a really good call.
Yes, I thought so too, because it suited the scenes more and it suited the feels of everything. It all worked out in the end. And I also kept saying to myself, Iris is not a perfect clarinetist. This is something she's doing in her spare time and just learning how to play the clarinet. So I think that took a lot of pressure off for me.
That's a good point.
To just enjoy it and not be this, ready for the stage. She's not joining a band.
When I saw that, I was thinking I would do the same thing. If I was a beacon keeper, there'd be a drum set in one corner, electric guitar in another corner. I am not good at either one of those things, but they would still make the trip.
Yeah,
with me.
And you'd play around.
Exactly.
Paul, can you imagine loading up your drum set into your ship to go to B-23 to save it?
Well, that's why I got the electric drums. They're easier to fold down.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure there was a part of Love that was like, oh, thank God she didn't say drums, because that would have been an issue.
That would have been hilarious. I'm gratified, though, to learn that you were the one playing, because on our podcast on that episode, I made the comparison to Commander Riker on Next Generation playing the trombone. And that you could never buy that. You never once bought that he was playing that trombone.
Like you can always tell when anybody who's playing an instrument is not really playing the instrument most
Well,
of the time.
there was a little touch when you put the reed in your mouth for a second to wet it. I'm sure actors can learn to do that, but there's something about woodwind players that automatically do that.
Yes, it's so true. And it's funny because in the scenes where I'm supposed to be playing the clarinet, they're like, okay, and then you just pick up the clarinet and you play it. I was like, no. I
Love
need to
that.
be sucking on my reed before that happens. Or if you want me to just pick it up and play it, then it should be soaking in a cup of water or something. You know, like
Right.
it,
There's
like I
always a
can't
warm up
just
period.
yeah. And so like things like that were definitely little things that only a real woodwind instrument player would understand and know and be able to tell them because yeah, those little details would have been lost.
Well, I just spent a long time in high school band, so I knew what to look for.
Yay. I'm so happy all the band people out there see me.
Yes. Well, does Iris regret becoming a beacon keeper now that everything, seems like she's now trapped here? Because I think we saw her ship is not functional for a return trip. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
She's kind of stuck now there. And
Halen
she
broke it.
is, Halen broke it. Well, Olive broke it, right? It's Olive's fault. So,
Right.
so she's stuck on here and everything, all her rules and controls and everything are just being thrown out of the beacon. So how is she feeling midway point with all these people? Does she regret being a beacon keeper? Because we also see lots of scenes of her dealing with the loneliness and the isolation. What is her journey right now?
I think for Iris, she will always be a beacon keeper at heart. She really is a rule follower with exceptions, you know? Like when it makes sense to break the rules, she will. And that's what she's really learning and seeing. She has real respect and love for the beacon and for what beacon keepers do. But she's also a human being and has ambition and is in love and now has her heart broken because she doesn't know if B174 is okay or if she's ever going to be reunited with that beacon keeper ever again. And for her, I feel like it's the first time she's really feeling a sense of loss. And then seeing Halen and meeting Halen and really seeing in him the pain and the hurt and the confusion and turmoil and trauma that he's really trying to live with every day. And she has a lot of empathy for everybody. And that surprises her too, because, she's not really ever interacted with anybody in person. She's a beacon keeper. She's ready to be on that beacon and alone. But when she has to interact and be in these moments with other people or with Harmony or the other AIs, like she really has a really big heart. So she's just at the beginning, I think, of learning about who she really is outside of just being a beacon keeper. I think she's realizing she's more than just a beacon keeper.
Because she's only like a month in at this point, right?
Yeah.
Like a month into being there. So would it be fair to say that the isolation like kind of has taken her by surprise?
I think for sure. I mean, in one episode, I don't know if I can't remember which number this one was, where everything's freezing up in the
Yeah, that was number
beacon.
4.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. And so she's having that moment where she's huddled in this by this heater next to Halen, and she says something I can't remember exactly, but she in the world of how she realizes that she doesn't love being alone.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's admitting that to herself and out loud for the first time. And I guess we're going to see where that takes her. I think she feels more than she ever thought she could feel.
Is B67 breaking the rules by abandoning her beacon to go to B23? What would be normal protocol be?
I feel like she is not breaking any rules when she's doing that. She's doing what feels right, and what any beacon keeper would do is she sees another fellow beacon keeper in need and in trouble, and decides that the right thing to do is to go over there and to make sure that they're okay and to help get the beacon back up and running and so that she could go back. I don't think she never ever thinks that she's never going to go back to her beacon. She thinks it's just, oh, I'm going to go there, fix up a few things and head back. I think that when she does arrive on Beacon 23, there is an adventurous spirit in her and also a person who just wants to fix things and help people and to make things better. And so she sees that her journey is now forward and not back. And I think that there's a letting go of who she was and kind of I don't know what's going to happen and trying to be comfortable with that feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. She's got a lot of layers to her. And, we get like she's very intelligent, very organized, very disciplined. And then she also has a level of her that has a sense of justice and honor that she has to follow through. And that seems to be a stronger core piece of her than being a rule follower. But then also you get to see her that then because she is very empathetic and Halen's a mess, then she's like spending a lot of energy not only putting the whole environment together that Halen destroyed, but also like serving as like a therapist to him, because we were talking about season 1 that Aster just kept pumping him full of like the drugs that he needed to offset his emotions. Right. And then here Ellen is taking a more like holistic approach of like, they're so interchangeable.
We're the same now. We are one.
Iris, now she's being like a therapist to him, or just like an empathetic peer that needs to share the knowledge with him and try to help him find better long-term coping pieces to it. So she's carrying a lot of burden on her, but her face and everything like seems like she's got it together. And so I just like worry about her. She's now assumed a responsibility for Halen, and Halen's a grown-ass man. Like, I'm sorry that he's like sad and he has like stuff, but now like Iris or B67, like now all of a sudden all of this load seems to be on her. So is that like something that I should be worried about? Should we be sending Iris some help?
I agree with everything that you're saying. And I really do feel for Iris, because I feel like she comes from such a world of rule following that she's also realizing this other world where sometimes, because she's also so principled and honorable, she's learning that sometimes you do have to break the rules to actually do what's right, that the rules aren't always there to serve you. And her world is totally just shattered by all of this, because she's just like, whoa, this is not what I know. None of this is what I know. From stepping foot on Beacon 23 to meeting Halen, it's like she is just as overwhelmed and just as surprised by all of the feelings that are starting to surface for her, that in a way, both her and Halen are just sort of like reaching around in the dark and doing their best.
Ironic in a lighthouse.
I think exactly. And she needs a hug. Halen needs a hug. Everybody needs a hug. But nobody's getting one. So shit's going to happen.
All right. I'm so glad that I'm on track here to be paying attention to my girl.
No, but I really do feel like what I connected to with the show is that the stories are so grounded. It's almost like sitting down and watching a play about humans in this sort of isolated space and what that does to one, how it affects each person specifically in their own way. It's very interesting, and that's what I really love about it, is the dissection of what it means to be human and to be there for one another in this place of aloneness and darkness and trauma and all of these things that are happening in their world.
Plus magic space rocks.
Exactly. Blue rocks.
And portals. Can't forget the portals.
Yep. AI.
Is that a portal? Can you clarify that for us? Is that a portal? The goo that farted on your
Oh,
face? In the...
yes. I'm trying to remember the one where she's with Dev. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes. Well,
Yeah,
there's where Dev
because
horns in on things and
because Dev's trying to imprint on Iris,
yes. Yes.
but I don't let her. Too loyal.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, no, yeah, it was a portal,
Okay.
or is a
Thank you.
portal. It was a strange portal where I could have been lost in, but did not get lost in.
Yeah, curious if you kept touching it. It was like, I'm not sure you should keep doing that.
Yeah, stop touching things, right?
Well, we've got like about 10 minutes before I know you said you've got to go. So maybe, Paul, if you want to pivot to some other questions that are a little bit more Ellen.
All right.
Whoa.
Gabby, our researcher on this one,
Oh no.
had looked through some
A
of your
researcher.
yes, exactly. Has looked through some of your past interviews and said that, or noticed that you had said that you wanted to play characters with a greater depth and arc.
Oh.
Assuming that Iris already does some of that for you, is there a character that you have in mind that you'd like to see yourself play one day?
I always love characters that start off thinking that they know everything and then realizing that they actually don't know anything at all and they still have so much more to learn. And I feel like in every moment in my life, I always feel that way. I honestly just want to play characters that I feel a connection with. And sometimes that surprises me when I have a connection with a character, or sometimes it's very clear. I am just at a place right now where I am open to whatever that is. And what I find interesting is that I always end up playing characters that I need at that time in my life.
Professional wrestlers.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes you just need to smash someone in a wrestling ring. No, but honestly, like when I got to play a wrestler in Glow, I mean, I didn't know that I needed to be physically in that space at all until I was in that ring and getting to just like fly through the air and slam down onto the mat and all of these things. And it felt very empowering. And I was like, oh, I needed this in my life right now. And so I really feel, I really trust in timing always being right and perfect. And I have a lot of different characters that I want to play, but I'm just also trusting that they're just going to come when I'm meant to play them too. I don't know if that really answers the question specifically, but
it'll work.
I think I'm just at a place where I want to be
Ellen.
I want to be less stressed about like, I need this to happen and I need this to happen. I'm just kind of like, everything's going to happen. It's just a matter of when, and I'm open to that, you know?
All right. We're putting out in the universe that just keep sending stuff Ellen's way because we want to keep seeing it, and because the next character will probably keep being the dream character that you didn't know you wanted, right?
Oh, so I would love that. That would be a dream. That would really be a dream.
Super cool. Let me see what we've got here. What was like the auditioning process like?
Well, it sounds like the part kind of came to you.
Yeah, actually, Iris, and that's enough. Like what I was just saying. It's when it's meant to be, it's just meant to be. I had a meeting with Glenn and Joy, and it just kind of turned into me being Iris just from that.
They knew they wanted you?
Yeah, I guess so.
Had you seen the first season?
So. I hadn't yet. They told me because they were still finishing the first season, I believe, when we were. No, they had just finished it, but they said it was still under wraps and they didn't want to share any of the episodes with me yet, but they could talk about it. So I hadn't seen anything. We need a
female lead, and we just killed off Queen Cersei, so now we need someone else.
Well, it was more just they wanted to have a different tone for the show with a character that they hadn't seen yet.
Well, for everything Aster brought to the show, I mean, Iris is very much a balance to that kind of presence. She was pretty chaotic.
Well, I'm really happy to hear that. I mean, I think that Aster is such a cool, badass character as well, and was needed in order to get Halen to where he ends up being when Iris comes along as well. Speaking of, timing and things being exactly as they need to be at the right time. And I think that Aster had to be chaotic and tough and also a challenge for Halen. But they also had a very special relationship, the two of them. Iris and Halen do too, in a way. We'll see.
Yeah, no, I loved Aster's character. We had lots of conversations about that last season. And so I was really nervous about Iris's entrance in here of like, how are they going to fill the shoes, right? But I love Iris so much. I see so much of myself in Iris, just as much as I saw a lot of things of myself in Aster, or at least like with Aster, I felt like I understood the reasons and
I think you'd thrive as
the
a beacon
strategy.
keeper, Inez.
I could
Yeah,
totally
time
be a
to
beacon
join
keeper.
us.
I am standard operating procedure, like to the T. I don't know though if I would have left the beacon. I feel like I would have to. I still need to learn how to
You would
like
have been
break
like, oh,
from.
they'll figure it out.
I was like, oh, well, I think I'm more like well, they say that everything's fine, so I'm just gonna keep working. like all of your partners when you send on the
It
message.
came from up top.
Yeah, that would
Right.
definitely
Whereas
be my motive.
Iris was more skeptical. She was like, came from up top, but like, what? This doesn't
Yeah,
make
that
any
QTA
sense.
thing.
So,
That QTA thing
yeah.
is what pushed her, right? Like, it's like, what
Yeah.
the fuck are you doing in my comms?
Yeah. And
How
I think
dare
that
you?
there's a little bit of a wandering, curious adventure seeker in Iris too. She was also just like, it's like that feeling that you get where you just can't quiet it after a while. Like she already knows herself well enough to go, okay, well, I have this weird feeling and this thought of like, this doesn't feel right. So I'm just going to act on it now rather than sit on it for however long, days, years, wondering what I could have done with it. She's just like, nope, I'm going to go figure this out.
I love Iris. I'm so happy
Oh, thank you.
for her inclusion. And I thank you so much for bringing her to life. And I guess like one of my final questions, and I'll leave it the rest to Paul here, is like, can you share some of your most memorable moments on the set of Beacon 23? What was it like working with the show's cast and crew?
Oh, everyone was so lovely on that. I mean, unlike any other project I've ever worked on, we're literally in this small, dark space on this beacon, on this set that, we don't have a lot of room to move around. And so you end up getting to be really close with everybody. And it was just a fun time. Everyone was super lovely. And we all loved the sunlight so much during our breaks to just like walk out. and to socialize. Even when it was a cloudy day, it was just so nice to be outside because it was a very dark set. It was one of those sets where you couldn't help but just get to know everybody and to just have a blast because you were all really literally in the dark together.
Let's see. Gabby had one question that I think she really wanted to know the answer to before we let you go and on to your next thing. She noticed on your Instagram that you have a picture hugging Michael Caine. Do you get to hug Michael Caine every day, or is that a special event?
Can you imagine if I got to hug Michael Caine every day? No. That would be really, really lovely. And he is so lovely. I actually worked with him on a film called Bestsellers. This was pre-pandemic. We were in this film together with Aubrey Plaza, and we shot in Montreal. And he is so sweet. He's like a father figure on set, as you can imagine. He just is filled with stories. He's like that relative that you just like can't wait to have dinner with because you know that they're just gonna like tell you all these fun life stories that are just going to make you laugh and feel like you wish that you could live a life as full as he does. So it was so sweet. And his wife was there with us on set too every day, and we all, every weekend we went out for dinners or had little dinners at somebody's apartment, and it was a very, very lovely movie, and it was a great time being there with Michael Caine. Yeah, he's amazing.
Well, and since then, he's pretty formally retired, hasn't he?
Yes. Apparently he said he was retired at the time. He was 86 at the time when we shot the movie. And then I remember Aubrey Plaza and I, we had this moment where we said to each other, let's make him retire after this movie. This is his last movie. Yeah.
Love that. Did you succeed? Did he do anything after?
You know what? I haven't looked into it. Has he? I'd like to know.
I'm going to have to Google
like
it,
to
and then
hope
Paul will
no.
email you what we
He was in
find.
Tenet very briefly, and that would be that
But
same.
I feel like he shot that before. Like the movie came out after we shot the movie, but he had already worked on that.
Okay. All right. Well, that counts.
Well, my fingers are crossed for you, Ellen, that is a story, because how epic is that? It's like
I made him retire, you know.
I made him retire. I'm in this last film, people. That's a flex that I could live with. So I lied. I have one final question.
Oh.
Ellen, are you living your dream?
I am living my dream. And I have to say that to myself every day and remind myself of that every day. And it's not even pertaining to just work. I'm just saying in life. Like, we are so lucky to be able to breathe the air that we breathe, to have food on our table. I just feel grateful and just so happy. And I feel like every day, I feel like I'm living the dream every day. There's a lot going on in the world, and I'm just really happy to be able to have what I have. I'm so grateful. And to be able to have these lovely, fun conversations with you guys.
Aw.
Thank you.
Perfect
Yeah.
answers. Mic drop.
No, I'm so happy for you, and I'm so proud of you, and I'm just looking forward to keep following all your work. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Means a lot. I appreciate it. And thanks for taking the time to chat. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the show and Iris's journey. I hope you're still an Iris fan by the end of it.
What could she possibly do?
Nothing.
Nothing,
Paul.
We'll see.
She has a logical reason. Whatever it is, she has a
makes
perfectly
sense.
logical reason, okay?
Yeah,
It was in the manual somewhere.
exactly.
Well, thanks a lot for joining us today, Ellen. It's been a great pleasure. I mean, I gotta be honest, just a great, super pleasure to talk to you today.
Oh, and likewise, this was really lovely, and I appreciated all your questions and soulful questions, actually. So it's so nice to be able to talk about all of the depth.
Now, if Iris does go and do something evil at the end of the season, we'll have to talk to you then too.
Yes, we'll be back. But if she does do something evil, it's because it made sense to do something evil. She had to.
We'll have to double check with you though.
Yeah.
Well, thanks a lot.
Okay, well, take care. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening. This has been an original Pod Clubhouse production. Pod Clubhouse is a podcast network dedicated to encouraging collaboration among podcasters and friends to bring a fresh voice and diverse perspective on a wide array of content. Please visit and leave a comment for us at podclubhouse.com. Rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast feeds on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You can find us at Pod Clubhouse. Our DMs are always open, and we'd love to hear from you.
Pod Clubhouse.